Welcome to the Bonus XP podcast. I'm your host, Luke Morgan, and joining me as always are my bearded boys, Conan
Hey there.
and Griner.
Greetings.
What we do here at the Bonus XP podcast is every fortnight, three friends gather around the internet campfire and each bring forward a news item or topic from the gaming world that we deem worthy for discussion. Before we get to that, we ask the most important question you can ask a gamer, and that is, Griner, what are you playing at the moment?
Oh boy, I had a big fortnight again, boys. Again, I don't know. Somehow I managed to shirk all my responsibilities and complete two games from start to finish. So
Damn.
before I get to them, uh, Age of Empires 4 released about a week ago. It's fun. Age of Empires is not so much for me, but it's been interesting seeing all the old streamers that I used to watch play StarCraft and Warcraft 3 play it. It makes me want to get into it, but I just don't think I have the time. Did you guys ever play Age of Empires? Is that your jam?
Big fan of number two.
Yeah.
Played a lot of AoE too. Never, never anything more than just playing like the 200 food cap and massing the army and using every resource on the map and then just
Yeah.
slowly steamrolling everybody. So games took me about 4 hours, but they were super satisfying.
That's half the fun.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not that much of a nerd. Like I'm a nerd when it comes to Lord of
You
the
hate
Rings,
RTS,
but
don't you?
no, that like I'm famously known as I just can't stand RTSs. I've never been able to jam with them. Don't know why. It's just nothing has ever appealed me to them. When I've seen people playing them, I think that they look boring, and when I've tried to play them, I'm like, I don't know what's going on, and I hard bail out. So
You never got
no,
the Age of Empires disc and the Nutrigrain and were
Exactly.
like,
I
Yeah.
did,
free
I
computer
did.
game.
And I'd watch it burn. I'd like put in the fireplace, and I'd be like,
You would
no.
eat that with your cereal and go,
And I'd be like, yeah.
sweet
I'd
tip.
sit there eating my cereal, and then I'd go play Metal Gear Solid, and I'd be like, yeah, cinematics, storytelling.
That's why I come to games for cinematics.
Sad.
Yes.
Well, AoE 4 seems like a good entry in the series if you're into that. I don't know if I'll play more of it. I might. I might. But Death's Door. Death's Door was a game that I wasn't on my radar at all, but I kept hearing like whispers about it. Like, Death's Door's really good. Death's Door's in Game
Mm.
of the Year contention. And I'm like, what the hell is Death's Door? And I look up the page on Steam, and it's this weird cartoon looking game. And I feel like they're not doing themselves any favors with their cover art. I think it makes it look really it looks like Five Nights at Freddy's or something like that. Like it just looks like
Hmm.
something that
A lo
doesn't
That's a low blow.
I know, it just looks like something that doesn't appeal to me. But uh it's for those who don't know, it's like an isometric action game. I'm hesitant to call it an RPG because it's very light on RPG mechanics, but it's very much in the style of older Zelda games where you unlock abilities. So you might unlock a bomb ability, and now all those crumbling walls you can break down and find new areas. Um, so yeah, I actually really, really enjoyed it. I picked it up during the Steam Halloween sale for like $20, and I think it's really well worth that price. It knows exactly what it is. Like it's not a very long game. They lay out like a handful of objectives for you at the start of the game, and that's exactly what you do. Like I thought, oh, there's going to be another act, there's going to be a twist. No, you do those objectives, you fight the end boss. Like it knows exactly what it is, but it does what it does really, really well. It was quite hard too. Like I died a lot. Um, but yeah, like boss fights are fun. There's pretty good enemy variety. There's some pretty funny writing in there. Like it's not bad. And it's a really
Yeah.
unique like setting, some really unique characters as well, which is cool.
So this is interesting. I feel like we talked about this earlier, and I got the impression you weren't very excited by it because
I
I've
Yeah, I had no interest in it, and then I just kept hearing little whispers about it.
yeah, because this is like the only time I think this has ever happened. I feel like I knew a lot about that game because like Press Start were talking a lot about. They really loved it, and I saw it come up on a few other lists of like similar thing, notable games, potential game of the years, and I was like, I really want to play Death's Door. And you, the guy I usually go to for like, here's a new Steam game that's coming out in 10 years because you just live on Steam apparently, and you're like, oh, who cares? So that's cool to hear though, because it looks really exciting that game. So it's good to hear that you're a fan.
Yeah, like it's not perfect. I think some of the like most of the weapons kind of feel pretty samey. Like there's not a lot of variety there. And the thing
So
that annoyed me the most is the health system. It's like the old school, like you have four hearts, and you take a hit from the tiny little bat at the start of the game that you could kill with a stiff breeze, and you lose 1 heart. You take a hit from the giant boss that you're fighting right at the end of the game, you lose 1 heart. And I just,
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't love that health system because it makes groups of enemies really, really hard, and I think it makes bosses really easy.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So that's the thing. I hadn't really heard about this game until last week, and it was on the PlayStation State of Play conference because obviously this has been, I believe, on Steam and Xbox for
Mm,
a couple of months now.
yep.
And like the thing on the State of Play was it was announced that it's coming to PlayStation consoles, you know. Um, but yeah, is it worth being in the talk for Game of the Year, or is it just hyperbole, like people talking it up?
Uh, I would argue Game of the Year is pretty weak so far this year. I think there's some big heavy hitters coming out towards the end of the year that might change that maybe, but it would be in my top 10. But I probably haven't played 10 new games. It is really
Yeah,
good. Like it is really good. It knows exactly what it's doing. It's not like huge and sprawling and overly produced. Like I think it's a team of like two guys or something and some ring ins. Like it's a very
Damn.
small team, and what they've managed to achieve, looking at it from that perspective, is pretty amazing. And for $20, like
see,
I don't think you can go wrong.
yeah,
Bargain.
can't argue with that. I'm worried that like eventually we'll find out that Griner is unemployed and lost his job, and that's how he's been able to do all the complete
And
all these games at this time. He'll
rather
reveal
than
his secret in a few weeks' time. He'll
yep.
be like, "So I've something to admit. I can't do a full time job and play all these games, but he's doing it
It's
somehow."
only like
Yeah.
a 10-hour game. That's easy. That's easy. The other game I finished
Yeah,
this week
Oh
uh,
gosh.
was the Forgotten City. Have you guys heard of the Forgotten City?
I've heard of it.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, so it came out a couple months ago, but it just came onto Game Pass
Game
last week
Pass.
or so.
Yes.
Um,
Yep.
and it's a really interesting loop game. This is the year of the loop, boys.
It
Um,
really
It
is.
is.
yeah, so it's a loop game. It's like we played 12 minutes. We all played it and sort of reviewed it. This does what 12
Yeah.
minutes was trying to do, I believe, and it does it really, really well. One of the more interesting stories I think I've experienced in games, like just really, really well done, really interesting. The
Is there a
game.
sister?
No, no,
Okay. So
no.
So
you're not
am I,
doing exactly what 12 minutes was doing.
not enough incest.
No, well, I don't know.
Spoilers.
It's set in ancient Rome, like in an ancient
Oh,
Roman setting. If
Yeah.
that points you anywhere, but
just just enough incest then.
that's
Perfect
all right.
amount of incest. So
Um,
am I reading this right? It's by an Australian developer based on
yes,
an Elder Scrolls like Skyrim mod?
yes. So they made a Skyrim
I
mod like 5 years ago, and it was
Oh,
really,
I know
really
what Tony's
popular.
saying
Had
tonight.
Yeah, so you could play it for free on Skyrim. Apparently, it's very, very similar. They just added like a non-Skyrim setting, I guess, to this game, and it plays a lot like
oh,
Skyrim. Like you talk to a guy and it zooms right in on his head, and he
yeah,
stares blankly at you and talks. Like it's got those trappings, which is kind of strange in a
love
non-Elder Scrolls game. Um,
it.
but yeah, it even touches on some interesting points. So like the whole crux of the city that you're trapped in is that there's the golden rule, and if one person sins, everybody is punished. Um, and it like touches on the idea of like, well, how do we know what is right and wrong? Like it really goes into some philosophical questions, and I think it handles them really, really well. Like a lot better than a lot of other games that have tried to do that sort of thing. Um,
Right.
and like it's an ancient Roman, I think it's Roman city, yeah. But it looks at like religions that were around at the time and how they look at sin, the concept of sin, and stuff like that. Just it's a fascinatingly written story. Like it's just really, really interesting. Um, there's some like it's not perfect. They sort of jam some combat in there, and I don't think it works all that well. Like there's particularly one section that's really combat heavy, and it's not that much fun. But yeah, I really recommend it, especially on Game Pass where it costs you nothing. Like I think it's $50 on Steam. I don't know if I would pay that because I finished it in like 6 hours. Um,
Yeah,
but
this
yeah,
sounds really fascinating.
I think you would enjoy it, Conan. I think you should try it too, Luke. I don't know if it's your game completely, but um,
Yeah, wow.
yeah,
I
So
don't
the
think
combat
yeah.
is combat similar to Skyrim as well?
yeah. I mean, without spoiling anything, you're only given a bow to use for combat,
I
and
don't want to play it then.
Well, fair enough. Actually, no, you can get a gun as well. If you choose a certain option, you can get a pistol for some reason.
Cool.
So there's some random stuff like that. But yeah, fascinating. I did it without looking anything up, and I highly recommend that because this it does what 12 minutes tried to do very well, I believe, in my opinion.
What a tragedy.
And
Sounds interesting. It definitely is the year of loops. It's really
yeah,
weird.
it's
Yeah.
super the loop here. Um,
Do you think that's because we've all been living in a loop since
could
2020?
could be, could be these games that take several years to build and develop. We're definitely planning on 2020 being a pandemic year.
Yeah.
Actually,
They might have been. They might have been.
the Forgotten City is pretty funny because there's this rule of like if one person sins, everybody is punished. Um, there's a character who really laments that, and he's really frustrated by that. And he's like, I hate being at the whim of all the dumbasses around here because if they do something wrong, I'm going to get killed. And your character's like, I know what you mean. I lived through a pandemic. And I thought, that's pretty good. um,
That sold me on this game. I
yeah,
need. I'll pay this for this game. I'm
there's
like,
some
yeah.
fun
Yeah.
parts in it. I do think it's well worth it. And yeah, it's an Australian developer. Like I wanted to support them too, so I got it for free. But still, hopefully they get something out of me getting it for free from Game Pass. The only
Yeah.
other thing I
No,
played a bit of
definitely.
is Forza. I don't know if you want to talk about that later, but yeah.
I will be talking about Forza, definitely.
So I played a few hours of Forza.
Nice. And that's you're talking about Forza 5, obviously.
Yes, Forza Horizon 5.
Yes, yeah. Conan, we'll go to you. How many games did you complete this fortnight?
Yeah, so I completed -1 games actually. I've forgotten another game that I finished apparently. What did I do? I played a bit more Zelda, as I do, because I'm pretty uninteresting. We played some Back for Blood, which was a lot of
Mm,
fun. And so that was sort of the
Yes, we
first
did.
multiplayer game I'd played in quite a while, I think. And that was a really cool
Yeah,
experience.
definitely for me.
Yeah, that was really fun to just be like, yeah, this is how I spent my teenage years playing these games, and it's really cool to get back into it. And it's something that I doubt there's a lot of time for me to do in my life now. But it is something that I want to do more of and try to make time for because it is really fun. And
Yeah.
the game is the game, as Omar says. It's not great, it's not terrible, but I think more than anything, it's about having sort of that. Like I can't imagine playing that game by myself. I don't think I'd get anything
no.
out of it.
Yep.
No.
But yeah, have some friends there, just muck around. It's a really good sort of playground for that.
It's more
Um,
about the friends you meet along the way.
exactly. That's the real blood that's back.
Yep.
And yeah, so I played a bit of Breath of the Wild. I also found an interesting analysis paper talking about how it's a metaphor for European colonialism, which is quite interesting. And now when I'm going to go back and play the game, I'm going to look at it through this lens.
Breath of the Wild
The
is European colonialism. Yeah, right. Okay. Well,
That's the
how many
funnest
divine
lens I could
beasts have you
imagine
beat?
Sorry,
playing that game through.
sorry, say again. What?
How many divine beasts have you defeated?
Oh, still just the one. I spent a lot of time just like running around Gerudo places, so just exploring. Because you get the sand mines and that's super fun to just surf.
Yep.
And I think the last time we talked, I killed the big like the mini boss right at the edge, the massive
Yep.
the giant fish or something.
Moldrog or something. Yeah.
Yes, that sounds right. So then I just went straight up to Goron City, and I'm about to I'm outside the down at the
Oh,
bottom of the base.
did you end up
Yeah,
getting into Gerudo?
no,
That's what I was
I
gonna ask.
Okay.
What?
I really don't want to read anything about this. I really don't want to look it up. And I was just at a point where I'm like, I feel like I've missed something, or maybe I'm just not taking the time to really study it or think about it. And I was getting frustrated with it. And I was like, look, I'm just going to go and do Death Mountain. Maybe something will reveal itself to me, and then I'll go back to Gerudo Place. And
Fair enough. There's so much to do. There's no harm in moving on to something else.
that was my thing. I thought rather than just hitting my head against a wall, I can, I can do some other stuff and not hate the game.
Awesome.
So my fortnight in gaming, um, had more gaming than it has in quite a while, actually, as well. So obviously, yeah, played Back for Blood with you guys, which was fun for a couple hours. But what I mostly want to talk about is two things. So Forza Horizon 5, which I started playing today, only for a couple of hours. Um, which is a lot of fun, and it's really, really beautiful. It's like a really, really graphically impressive game.
Mhm.
I'm playing it on Xbox Series X,
Mm.
on an OLED TV, and yeah, it's outstanding. Um, my son loves it. He's into it as much as I am. Like, he was very excited to see Forza Horizon 5 was out because for the last week he'd been playing number 4 with Game Pass and was loving that. So I was like, "Look, now there's a number 5 out," and he was like, "Oh my god, and it's free!" He's like a little marketing campaign for Xbox Game Pass.
There
Um,
you go.
but yeah, so we've been playing that, which was fun. Grana, what did you think of that?
Yeah, it's good. I'm definitely starting to feel the age of my PC. Games like that really like the load times might actually make me not play it until I get a better PC because it's seriously like even loading
Oh,
into a
really?
race is like 2 minutes. And I'm just like, oh,
Jeez.
I can't
Oh,
sit here and do this. It's gross. So yeah, I'm definitely in need of a new PC. But anyway, so if you want to donate
I
to
feel
the
like it's
Grinder PC cause, get in touch.
I feel like it's between 10 to 20 seconds for me on Series X to get in there. You just need a console, man.
There
That's
is a bit of
what
time.
they
Okay,
say the consoles are the most powerful, PCs in the world, especially the PlayStation side, but
literally nobody has ever said that.
I have many times.
So remember that time the army was using PS3s as the supercomputer?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bitcoin, that's because of PlayStations. Um, and the other game that I've been playing quite a bit of that I really wanna talk about is the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm,
Mm.
So
I hear good
this
things.
game, yeah, surprisingly, this game, you'd think me being the Marvel guy, um, me being the Guardians of the Galaxy guy, that's like one of my favorite Marvel movies, uh, would I'd be all over this game. But I really feel like they did themselves a disservice with every trailer and every gameplay thing they showed of this, because when it was first revealed, I was like, "Oh, cool." By the end of the trailer, I was like, "Not cool." I was like,
mm,
"I'm out. This doesn't seem fun." It looked very much like Marvel's Avengers. It's made by Square Enix, so it very much looked like that gameplay style, which didn't look fun at all. Um, and I feel like what they showed in the trailer, like the dialogue between them, wasn't that funny. Like, it all was really hit or miss, lines, punchlines and everything like that. And I feel like loving the Guardians as much as I do and being so used to the MCU, seeing this weird, like, really colorful teal Drax and, like, these different interpretations of these characters, like a really blonde Star-Lord, it was a bit threw me off a bit, Like, it just has that thing of like, "Oh, these aren't my Guardians of the Galaxy."
Mm.
Um, I'm about 8 hours in or so. Um, I think this game's amazing. Like, I'm loving it, and I can't wait to finish this pod to go play more of it. I think it's hilarious. I love this cast of characters. I think it's very witty, the dialogue. It's well written. I love the choices you can make in it. Like, they don't have big impact, but it's basically, do you side with Groot or do you side with Drax in this argument? Do you side with Rocket, or do you go with Gamora's plan or Drax's plan? Like, it's these little small things. That have you customize the way you do things. It's gameplay, like, it can be sort of compared combat-wise to Avengers, but a lot of people are comparing it to Final Fantasy VII Remake, where it's sort of like, like, you're controlling Star-Lord, you're shooting people and, points are popping up, their life bars dropping down or whatever, but you give commands to your other party members of what they do. And it's very seamless. It's literally like, 2 button presses. So it's like triangles Gamora, square is Drax. So you're like pressing these buttons, like you're holding one of them, like L1 and then triangle, and telling her to do this attack or this attack, like get her to stealth that person, Groot to hold this group of enemies down, like Rocket to throw a grenade down. And it's really chaotic. You're flying around as Star Lord. It's fun though. Like, every time I get into a combat thing, I'm enjoying the combat. Like, it's fun. You have these little moments where you can like build up a meter and call everyone for a huddle up, and you're like, huddle up, and everyone gathers around, and like you have to give an inspirational speech to get them riled up, and either it doesn't rile them up at all, and they're like, what are you talking about? Like, stop wasting your time, and they walk away, and your guy gets like the perk, like the bonus perk. But if you nail the inspirational speech, everyone gets the like the bonus thing for the the combat scenario. And I've butchered it a few times. So you've got to listen to what they're saying and then pick the conversations that will flow with that. And apparently, I'm really bad at that. So,
So it's like a
but it's
Japanese dating game, is it?
basically, but you're Chris
Uh,
Pratt. Um, but yeah, it's the story's really good. Like, there's flashbacks to when Peter Quill was a kid. I really enjoy them. I like the personal stories that are going on. I am invested in the characters, and yeah, I'm really, really enjoying it. And reviews are doing really well as well across the board. But I really think they did themselves a disservice because I don't think anyone was really hyped on it, and then it just came out of nowhere, and it's really, really great. And it's one of my favorite games of the year, if not my game of the year so far.
Game of the year,
Um,
wow.
but yeah, it like Grant touched on earlier, it is a kind of a weak year. I'll wait and see how the game goes before I do that because there are some other games I played this year that I really liked. But yeah, I highly recommend Guardians of the Galaxy. So
Did Chris Pratt do the voice of Peter
no,
Quill in this? That's surprising
no,
because he's doing every other voice
Yeah,
in
he's
he's
anything at
doing
the moment.
every other voice,
he's not
but
very picky.
not Star Lord.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, none of the original cast. What's cool, and I did this straight away. You can unlock the costumes from the movie, so you can
That's
dress
cool.
make Groot look like the movie Groot or Drax. And I did Drax straight away. The game Drax, I didn't like the designer, so he looks like the one from the movie straight away. But heaps of costumes and unlockables and stuff like that. But yeah, I really, really, really enjoying that game.
Fun.
Um, well, we'll get into the news items or topics for the week. I think I will start this week.
Whoa.
So yeah,
Mixing it
breaking
up.
news. Um, since we were talking about Forza, this is just a little side topic. I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on it. Something that I've just been thinking about in my head for a couple of days now. So, Forza Horizon 5, obviously Xbox's first big exclusive in probably 46 years. I don't know.
Yes.
No, but in like
Xbox
quite a
of the
while.
80s.
Like definitely since the launch of the Series X, which was a year ago now. This is their first big exclusive. And they've been pushing Game Pass and they've been pushing Forza Horizon 5 for months. And like their thing, like they love to say, day one on Game Pass, like day one, this game is coming out available on Game Pass, which is awesome. And that's what Xbox exclusive games will be. But something piqued my interest though, because obviously it came out today on Game Pass. It's out today on Game Pass. But if you bought it, you got early access and were allowed to play it from like last Thursday.
Yeah.
So you got it like 4 or 5 days early with early access, which used to be a thing years ago. Early access, I don't think has been a thing recently with these big games. I just wanted your guys' opinion on it because I find it funny that they say it's day one on Game Pass, but if you buy it, you get it almost a week earlier. It's not really then day one on Game Pass, is it? If you just buy the game, you get early access to it. So I don't know. It's just maybe it's just a PlayStation fan of me that is just like, I don't.
So it
It's
just
not
sounds
really a
like you're
thing. But I
salty to
wanted your
me.
guys' opinion. No, no, no. I have an Xbox Series X. I'm loving Forza. I thought I could play it on day one when it came out last week, but apparently that's just early access, and I had to wait till today, like a lonely Game Pass scrub. But Conan, what are your thoughts on that? Is that dodgy marketing or is there
So just so I'm clear, this is Forza you're talking about, right?
Forza Horizon 5? Yeah, yep.
Okay. I really
Its release date was today. Its
yeah.
release date was today. It's out on Game Pass today. But if you bought it, you got early access to it a week ago.
Yeah, I feel like it's semantics more than anything that you're upset about. And I think it's reflective of a changing market, like because I get what you're saying, it's not truly day one, but games still have a release date. And so it's just the day one is going to start to mean when Game Pass gets it. Everything's going to probably go to Game Pass first eventually. And so day one will be when it goes on Game Pass, which will just be what was once upon a time called a release date for a game. And then it's like, but if
Yeah,
you pay the full price, you will get it a week early, which is what's happened with games before. Like I say, it hasn't happened heaps in the past, but it's not an entirely new phenomenon, right? Where you pay it and you can play it a couple days early or something. And it's always just been
yeah,
that hey, don't try to do any deals, or don't try to like pay the premium, pay the full price, and you get it early. And so I think it's much the same. It's like if anything, it's like it's almost a good incentive in a lot of ways because it's like pay for the game and you get it a week early. And as a man who believes in
So
paying for things and hard copies, I'm like, yeah, buy it if you want to play it a
yeah,
week early. Like
but I mean,
it's 2021 and I'm playing Zelda. I don't care about getting games a week early, man.
yeah, exactly. But you pay for Game Pass is the way I see it. And the thing that just interests me, and we'll move on to another topic because obviously it's maybe just my PlayStation bias a little bit seeping in here. But
Just a little.
I just I think there's something sinister there where these poor Xbox I'm worried about the Xbox fan base. Just
Oh, you're a
bear with
nice
me for a
guy.
minute.
Here we go.
I'm as a PlayStation guy, I'm just trying to look out for the people on the other side of the fence, where the grass isn't as green over there. I'm just worried about them. So
With PlayStation Pass, that awesome
I,
subscription service.
I look over at these Xbox people. They're starving. They're famished. They haven't had a game in a year.
The feast
Like they
is
haven't had
coming. The feast is on its
yeah.
way.
And but Xbox is just like, yeah, we've starved them for a year. Hey guys, here's a big bucket of food. Look, it's delicious. If you pay us
You'll
extra, you'll get it a week. So these people who are starved and wanting an exclusive game are like, I can't wait 4 days. I'm starving. I need it now. And so they pay money. And Forza, before it launched on Game Pass, had nearly up to 1 million players. So 1 million people bought it early to play it 4 days early. Because they were that famished, Obviously on PlayStation it wouldn't have happened. People would just be like, I'll play one of my exclusives in the meantime. Um,
Just the
but
most
yeah, anyway, that's
nonsense
all.
I've ever heard. Look, the truth of that early access was that it was early access. The servers were down for a lot of it. People had a lot of trouble playing online. It was not a good experience by all accounts that I heard about, and it was true early access. It wasn't the release that you would expect from a full fledged game.
Okay, well then that's worrying that a game is in bad condition 4 days before release, and the people who get the poor experience are the people who pay full price.
That has always been the case with early access, and servers are
When
not
it's early access,
servers.
not 4 days early.
Servers do not equal game. Like, servers are always overloaded at the
Okay,
start. There are always server problems. There is no, like, very few games come out without server problems that have an online component.
but early access usually doesn't cost $100.
We,
Early access is usually betas and all this stuff to
no.
go
People
through that smooth stuff.
people have been
This
paying to
is
get into betas forever. I paid
oh,
nearly 200 Australian dollars to play Escape from Tarkov in early access for the last 2 years, and I've enjoyed every
dang.
minute of it, despite the servers being dog shit literally the whole time. It's fine. It's how it's always been. You're a nonsense PlayStation fanboy.
okay.
Oh.
Anyway, just just something for the Xbox people to think about. Like, while you're eating that food, I hope you enjoy it. You deserved it. It's been a rough couple years. Like,
So
enjoy that.
I just want to make a.
But
We talked about this once, like on a previous pod, didn't we? Where or sort of how it was indicative of the larger issue where all the, I think it was during E3 or something, I don't know, but all the exclusives were
mm,
coming later, and we were like, because I think I was like, neither of
yeah,
them. No, that's all right. I was saying how neither console really had any games, and you were like, no, PS5 has Returnal and Assassin's Creed, even though that's on everything. And I was
I
making
didn't
play,
say
but
Assassin's Creed. I
you
said
did.
Ratchet and Clank,
I remember you said
Returnal,
Assassin's Creed,
Demon
and
Souls,
you said Assassin's Creed.
Miles Morales. I remember
Either
that podcast.
listen again, you said Assassin's Creed. My point is, I think we covered it there where it was just a weird time for it. And yeah, they've taken a while to get there. But it's just because gaming's been in kind of a weird spot with the pandemic and with
Yeah.
the sort of the next generation coming in. It hasn't been as clear and decisive as it once was. And so it's kind of a weird sort of a middle ground that they're still getting around. And now that it's sort of in the point where most people who are going to get the next gen have the next gen, or at least it's available, now they're like, okay, here's a whole bunch of the games to play on that, which makes sense to me. And plus, I think it's great
Well,
if you've got an incentive to make someone buy a game. That's good because that means Microsoft actually doesn't get the just Game Pass monopoly. And that actually means these developers might get more money.
I mean, Forza is literally made by Microsoft, though.
I'm
There's
aware of that. I'm
yeah, they're
aware of that as
still
I'm
gonna get.
saying it.
They're just gonna get more money.
It's a precedent for the bigger thing, though. If every game does that, It's like, some indie studio offers like 2 days early and you buy the game. Like, fantastic.
Okay, like early access on consoles for the last few years was always just your sports games. It was EA pretty much was doing their early access stuff.
Call
Pretty
of
much EA exclusively.
Call of Duty has been doing it forever.
Not true.
It
Not
is,
true.
you've been able to
Battlefield
get
has been
into
doing
that
it forever.
multiplayer by paying for the beta for ages.
Oh yeah, betas. Remember that?
Yeah, that's different.
Betas are the
Ex
same as
on but
betas are the
the new
same as early
Call of
access, my
Duty
friend.
Vanguard came out the same day or for every edition on last Friday though. But, um, anyway, I'm just saying, like, it's interesting to do it for, like, a big AAA exclusive. Like, if Last of Us Part 2 was, like, you get it 4 days early if you pay us extra, would've been a little weird, but that's just 1 out of 50 exclusives, so it's different on PlayStation. But anyway,
Next
I'll move on
topic.
to my next we'll move on to my next topic. Speaking of, PlayStation exclusives, this game's not exclusive, but it comes from a creator who made some of the greatest PlayStation exclusives of all time, Amy Henning.
Mm.
So she wrote the first 3 Uncharted games, basically created that series, created that character, uh, was controversially
Was
forced out
betrayed
of
by none other than Cuckman
Naughty Dog
himself.
in for
She was
Uncharted
cucked.
4, and they scrapped that entire story and redid that whole storyline. So she's got a few years ago they announced a partnership with a studio, which really bad hosting for me. I've forgotten the name of. Is it Skydance? Just gonna quickly have a look at this. Anyway, so she's the creator of Uncharted. Has had a weird couple years now, where she was hired to be one of the writers on Star Wars 1313 a few years ago,
Remember
which,
that.
if you know that game, was a very hyped Star Wars game where you'd play as a bounty hunter. It looked like
Looks so
Uncharted in
good.
the
Looks
Star Wars
so good.
universe. It looked phenomenal, and it was shown for years,
Mm.
and then was scrapped. And EA basically cancelled uh, that you know that partnership or whatever. And a few years ago, I believe 2 years ago, it was announced that she'd partnered up with Skydance, which is this studio. And recently, it was revealed that her and Skydance are collaborating to make a Marvel game. Um, so I just wanted to talk about more about the news, how you feel about this. Grant, obviously, you haven't played the Uncharted games. The rumor, actually, I'm glad we could talk about it today because the rumor today is that it will either be an Ant-Man game or Fantastic Four. Is the two rumors going around about this game? Conan, I'll go to you first. Um,
Well, do you really need?
you
Do you
you
really
played
need
the first
my
three.
my opinion on
You
this?
you at least seen the first couple Uncharted games. How do you feel about a Marvel game? I know you're a big Marvel fan.
Yep.
How do you feel about a Marvel game by Amy Henning set in the Ant-Man universe or Fantastic Four?
Neither of those two properties are games. Who needs an Ant Man game? What the hell is an Ant Man game? Like,
I
is
disagree about Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four kind of lends itself
yeah,
to being a fun four-player
yeah,
video
maybe you're
game
right.
thing.
I
Someone needs to do right by Fantastic Four for once. That's what needs to
That's
happen.
that's true, but I feel like that's the movie's role rather than the game's role.
Maybe.
Look, I think
Yeah.
like Uncharted is a lot of fun. I watched the first two games on YouTube because I'm not going back to play that crap.
Ugh.
Played the third one, it was tops. Played the fourth one, and I felt cucked as
You should go back
well.
and play. You should go back and play too because it's like one of the best.
Yeah, I know.
It's the best in the series.
Everyone said that. Anyway, so they're good. I can see like you can really see the original trilogy has like a clear, I don't know, like an ethos and a pathos and just like a vision. So you can tell she's clearly like she knows what she was doing.
Mm,
She made this really influential thing. She's probably perfect for a Marvel thing. Like Uncharted has all the feelings of Marvel. It's sort of
yeah.
fun. It's got the slightest. It's got like the slightest dark tinge of violence, but it's a good time. It's an adventure. It's got
Quips and witty
yeah,
one-liners and
like it truly is kind of like the Marvel formula almost without any of the trappings.
yeah.
So I think she would do a great job at it. I just, I've talked enough about my
Yeah.
feelings for Marvel. We don't need more Marvel games, but maybe we do if
Um,
Guardians of the Galaxy is so good.
Griner, I'll get your opinion. Obviously, you don't know much about Amy Henning or Uncharted. Um, which of these two series would you be more interested in, an Ant-Man game or a Fantastic Four? or neither?
Probably neither. I mean, like I said, someone needs to do right by Fantastic Four, but I'm all for these good writers coming up with original IPs rather than writing for the Marvel machine.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, I get that. And like, I don't know. I really was looking forward to Amy Henning working on the Star Wars property though, and like in
Yeah.
1313, like picturing this
Mm.
bounty hunter in like an Uncharted style thing. It looked really good.
Do you think they're
And I'll
kicking themselves with the success of the Mandalorian? Like, surely something like 1313
probably
is
Yeah.
coming now. Surely.
because there was leaked concept art from that game showing Boba Fett like hunting down your bound. Oh, it was just the coolest stuff ever, man.
Would have been,
I
yeah.
I've gone back and watched that trailer recent, that gameplay reveal, and it's tops.
It
Still better than
does
any Star Wars game we've had since. So
it does seem like that great. Like, it was just ahead of its time, and they were too scared of it
yep,
because, like, Star Wars isn't as successful, is it? And then now we have a lot of history to prove it
it
is.
wasn't back then really.
Yeah,
So
but
it's
it kind of made sense why they did it, but it's just funny with retrospect, like, wow, that is a huge misfire. Like, I hope someone got fired for that.
yeah. Um, Personally, I just Ant Man's a weird game to picture how that would work.
Yeah, like, explain that to me. Give me an elevator pitch. What's an Ant-Man game?
I
I
actually
don't
could.
know.
I actually could see it. Imagine it like the level in Titanfall 2 where you travel back and forward through time,
That was a
but
good
you're
part.
making
Yeah,
yourself small and large. That's how I would do it.
Yeah, okay. Would it be like a
dude,
generally like an
kinda just sold me
espion
on it.
like an espionage game, like you're kind of infiltrating things and
Yeah,
stuff, or
No, it'd be a
that could be
heist
cool.
game. It'd be a heist game.
That
That's
that makes a lot
Ant-Man.
of
He's
sense.
heist
Yeah.
man.
Yep.
one big heist? That would be really fun actually, like, yeah, robbing a bank and you gotta do all that. Okay, I'm sold.
One last heist before retirement. Um,
Again.
so
Yeah.
just quick side thing. Amy Henning, personal friend of mine. We had a DM conversation on Twitter a few years ago, that
Oh,
went on for quite a few paragraphs.
soulmates.
Like, no joke. It was one of my first Twitter interactions. This was back in 2011, and I remember this.
Dang.
I finished Uncharted 3 and I was confused about something in it. And I literally tweeted at her, and then she DM'd me the answer to it, like in a big paragraph, like, oh, this is what I think happened between the games and this and that, and what this can be interpreted as this. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. And then I was just like, also about that scene. And then she replied with another paragraph. And I was like, oh, you're tops. Awesome. So
That is
yeah,
that is really
That's
cool.
cool.
yeah. I'm pretty sure she follows me on Twitter too, because she had to follow me to DM me back then. But yeah.
Wow.
So
Look at you.
Get her to retweet
I
the
will.
podcast.
I'll
Exactly.
get her on the next podcast to pitch
Do it.
this game to us and
Good.
get Griner to pitch that Titanfall level and see if that's where it goes. But we might have something on
Yeah.
our hands here. Amy,
Here's
let me
how we
know.
here's how we make it big.
Um, and so last thing I wanted to discuss before we move on is yesterday was N7 Day, which is BioWare Mass Effect celebrate Mass Effect and everything that is Mass Effectness. Basically, this year was quite a lame year for announcements. People were excited for a few things, but they announced they were doing some collectible cups and pillows and
Cups.
dog jackets, and and they announced that they made a bunch of gifts that you could use on the internet.
That's pretty
And
cool.
then at the end of the day, which I feel like they were quickly scrambling, like, man, people aren't happy with this. We need to quickly. Where's the graphic designer? Come up with a poster for the next Mass Effect game. Just write Mass Effect will continue on there. They released a new poster for Mass Effect, the next one, which obviously is far off in development, and we
Yeah.
won't be seeing it for quite a while. The trailer was that they showed originally was just a CGI trailer that just said Mass Effect will continue. Basically like a promise to their shareholders. And
Yep.
this one says the same on the poster. It just says Mass Effect will continue.
S
Um,
I'm starting to think
I did just
our kids will see this game. We won't. Future generations.
no, we're passing it on. Um,
Yep.
just wanted to quickly get your opinion on the poster. Obviously, it's shaped like a Geth.
Yeah, alright, is it
Um,
shaped like a Geth? Is that what that
it
is?
is.
I saw that shape a
Yes,
lot
it's
in Alien. I feel
absolutely
like I saw that shape a lot in Aliens.
Yep.
Um,
And
no. It's definitely a
it
Geth.
conjures
I
a
don't
lot
know.
of things up in my mind that aren't Geth.
Some Geiger art right there. H.R. Geiger art.
It's very anatomical, is what that is.
I disagree, but It looks like a Geth, and now if you zoom in on the characters that are leaving the ship, you can obviously see a Krogan, a Solarian,
Was
and a
that
Sari.
crabs?
And the down the line, way further to where they're walking, what looks like a Geth's body buried under the snow, sticking out a bit.
I'm
I
zooming in
find
on
this
it
really
now. Yeah,
interesting,
that is quite cool.
because in the original trailer, Liara picks up a bit of N7 armor that's buried in the snow. Now it looks like that's actually off a Geth, which would make me think Legion, because he had the N7 armor on him
Humanus
instead of
boy.
Shepard, which is what everybody thought. Now, Legion, I think, is the coolest character in Mass Effect. So, man, if they just decided to go and appease the Legion fan base and make a game about the legacy of Legion or something and just trying to restore this old robot, that would be dope to me. But yeah, any thoughts on this poster, or am I just? I really want a new Mass Effect game and I want it to be good. I don't want it to be Andromeda, but
I do not trust BioWare with anything anymore. I will wait and see when
No.
it comes out, and I will not hype myself at all until that point.
yeah.
I'm inclined to agree, and like it could literally be like 5-10 years off until we see it, sort of thing. Like I say, they keep just saying Mass Effect will continue. It's the vaguest.
Which,
Like all that means is, yeah, we aren't going to shelf the property forever, right? It doesn't mean
yeah,
anything.
basically. And I
And
mean,
you're right.
their next game is Dragon Age 4, which they announced 4 years ago, and we've only
Yeah.
seen 2 teaser trailers.
Yeah.
And
Game development is seriously taking longer than ever, and it's only going to keep getting longer as hardware requirements grow. They can do more, but there's also more expectation to have good graphics and stuff like that. All this stuff takes a lot more time, and we live in a COVID or post-COVID world that maybe there's not so many in-person meetings and collaboration that we used to have.
Yeah.
I think I think that's true in a lot of respects. I think the problem with BioWare is EA and them trying to steer BioWare in this whole direction of Anthem and multiplayer, and now them trying to divert back onto track to their single player offerings. But
Like yeah,
yeah,
you can totally see that pattern of they screwed up so bad, and they're like, all right, maybe we've learned our lessons, and so I do have optimism for the next Mass Effect, 'cause I think they know to not do what Andromeda did.
But how do you explain
Um,
Andromeda? Andromeda wasn't forced as a multiplayer game or anything like that. Like, I think the things that made
yeah,
BioWare good are long gone, honestly. And BioWare was one of my favorite developers. They made Knights of the Old Republic probably my favorite game of all time.
are there actually like
yeah.
so? I mean this seriously, but when you say that, like, are there actual like writers or staffing or anything that you're referring to, or is it just the
Oh,
general sort
heaps.
of?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically not the
So
same team.
it's always like revolving doors, right? You're never going to have. There's always going to be someone comes out, someone new comes in.
But
But
there
was there
was
ever any like pivotal sort of people there who you think shaped it originally?
were they called I think they were called the Doctors. Were they like brothers or something? There's two dudes that basically ran BioWare at the start. And now I think one of them like owns an apple orchard or something and makes cider, and the other one's not involved in
It's
games either. Like, yeah,
Wow.
It's a mess. Like Mac Walters left, who's one of the writers from there. One of the big ones is Casey Hudson, who created Mass Effect. He created that original trilogy. Wasn't part of Andromeda. They brought him back to BioWare for this new Mass Effect project, and like it was this big thing. And then he announced he's left the project and he's leaving. It's a big mess when it looks like staffing wise. So,
Yeah,
um,
and that's always the
and
clear.
I saw a tweet the other day from one of the people who had left BioWare, about the quote from EA where they said that they think NFTs are like the future of gaming or something like that. And he
Ridiculous.
tweeted it and he was like, a positive thing about working with who I currently work is I don't have to cringily like defend my company's like statements like this. So I think EA are killing that company and people have known that for a long time. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
inclined to
they
agree.
sad.
long killed it and they're now beating a dead horse. Is what's happening over there.
But how good would
So
a new Mass Effect be? Wow.
yeah, exactly. Speaking of beating a dead horse, Conan, what is your topic for the week?
That hurts my feelings.
Physical
All
media,
right.
good.
Yes, I actually have a new original take on how good physical media is. Bunch of a bunch of jerks. All right, so let's start with the closest to physical media then we can, because there is actually something. So
Yeah.
recently, Metal Gear Solids are facing a removal from the digital from their stores due to licensing issues regarding archival footage. So the issue there is
Yes.
that you license this footage for a certain period of time, which back in the day when you put it on discs was fine because they just existed. But it raises questions where, well, you can't continue to sell that or produce that because the license is done. So I don't have the list in front of me, but I saw it. It's a pretty big list. Like every single Metal Gear Solid game, from what I could tell, was getting
Yeah.
removed from the stores.
Yeah, basic like, that's the thing, Metal Gear Solid's famous for using, like, historical footage, even on the PS1, like, there was these really grainy, like, black and white videos of bombs being set off, like Hiroshima and all this sort of stuff, and it's just like I remember as a kid learning so much history from Metal Gear Solid, like, because 'cause they'd just talk about wars and they'd be like, "Oh, yes, the Cold War," and, like, they're just there's, like, cutscenes in that game that are, like, 40 minutes of a dude just narrating, like, archival footage of him being like, "And that's when the second nuke went off," and I'd be, like, sitting there like, "Oh my god, what? This is crazy."
I'm a
Um,
historian now.
yeah, and I did really bad at school with history, but, um,
Because that's because you were
some of
like,
it was alternate history.
there's a
Well,
spy
I was
named
just
Snake
like
in the Cold War, guys.
I was like, "The Cold War is actually where the first Metal Gear was created, the Shagohard, miss," and she was like,
F.
"No, there was no Shagohard."
That's an F minus, Luke. Get out of my class.
Yeah, and I'll be like, "Snake!"
It's like you
But
were the
yeah,
first fake news man. Anyway, so yeah, that's a big problem, right? Like, I
it
feel like
is,
there's,
if
there's
it
an
doesn't
obvious.
come back,
It's
like
just it's a good excuse for them to sell a remaster, and I feel like
yeah.
this problem is not going to be an issue forever, right? Like games developed today are aware that this is a thing, and hopefully are either licensing in perpetuity or not using things that they can't license in perpetuity. So we'll see if this continues to be an issue. But yeah, it does suck for older games.
Hmm. And I just thought to myself, imagine if if there's a solution like buying a physical copy of these games, so you had the physical copies, like you wouldn't have this issue. And I laughed. I laughed from my
But
pile of DVDs as I
and
looked down on you digital people.
It's
I'm
all
with you there, and I get that, but the argument is, like, I can't play the physical copy on any current console.
Shouldn't have got rid of your old consoles.
my PlayStation
Simple.
1 my PlayStation 1 died. I cannot get parts for it. I cannot buy another one, and I cannot get like a good way to plug it into my TV even. What do I do, Conan, in your physical only world?
Because
Buy
physical media can die too.
there are adapters. Buy some
Yeah,
adapters,
but
man.
my PlayStation's faulty anyway. Like it has failed.
All right.
And I
Let me have a look on eBay for you.
He's gonna look he's
how
gonna
long
look
can
at
we
PlayStation console.
continue to buy
Forever. Forever
they're
and
not made
ever.
forever though. That's the problem.
They're not making them still. Eventually, we'll run out.
That's right.
Sony
But
that's the PlayStation Mini. Yeah, look, obviously there is this issue with everything. I thought it's something that I never really thought about. Like archival footage is obviously a big thing in documentaries and movies and stuff, but in games it kind of usually doesn't get considered. But it was just interesting to see it affecting this medium now as well.
Hmm.
and, like, it is interesting, like, 2 things I wanna touch on, like, Griner just brought it up. Like, there is all these rumors that they're going to remake Metal Gear Solid. Like 3 seems to be the rumor that they're gonna remake that. Is this just like a timing thing where they're like, "Oh, well, we're not gonna bother because we want people to buy the new one, so the old ones won't be available to buy anymore." Um, like, I'm even interested because, like, as soon as I got my Xbox One X the other day, Series X, sorry, um, I wanted to buy the HD collection of Metal Gear Solid, which I probably should do, 'cause, um, in case they remove it, because, like, I really want them, and that's the only way I can play those 2 HD games.
Yep.
Um, but the other thing as well that I find interesting is, yeah, like, archival footage isn't something that's used in many games.
Mm,
Like, Metal Gear Solid's really the only one that comes to my mind straight away of using it in such regard like they did. But, like, I mean, I think something we will encounter in 10, 15 years' time from now is, like, music. Like, you think of the Life is Strange games and all this stuff, like, how long is the license for that? Is that in, like, forever or whatever? Because it's already at an interesting point. like that. A lot of games these days have like your streamer modes where you can turn off like the copyrighted music, obviously, so you can stream the game. Um, Funny story, I saw a video of someone streaming Life is Strange True Colors, the new one. There's a scene where people are like doing air guitar and like dancing in their apartment to music, and the stream mode is just silence, and they're just like,
That's very
and it's like,
weird.
man, it's a bad way to experience that
Yeah.
scene when it's silence, and it's just like, especially Life is Strange, music's such a big part of that game, as you would know, Conan.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
like, what if in
Yeah.
10 years they're like, "Oh, we don't have the license for that song, and we're bankrupt as a company now." So, like, it's a silent game now, or
Yeah,
I don't know.
well, no, you're right, and I think, I mean, it happened with the Tony Hawk, 1 and 2 remakes that came out last year, year before, whenever they came out.
They couldn't get the
Um,
Yep.
music.
yeah, similar thing. So I think they got almost all of it, or might have even been all of it. I think there might have been like one issue, but they had to go through that again and actually relicense all the stuff and make sure this all happened again. And it was part of the big selling point of like, imagine if they can't get Superman. Like, is it even Tony Hawk's if you can't listen to Scar? The answer is
Yeah.
no. But yeah, it was a real sort of risk, like because those songs made that game, and it really would have changed it if they just like had none of that, but they got some new stuff.
The other nice thing about modern games is they are easier to patch. So if you're selling a game that has licensed music and you can't get the rights to it again, you could patch something else in. You can't go back and patch Metal Gear Solid 1. So,
Yeah.
No.
well, I don't think you could. No, definitely couldn't at all, really. So, yeah,
Yep.
like there are ways around it now we have, and hopefully developers are aware that this will be an issue going forward and maybe pony up for the bigger license or use different music that they can get the license to.
Yeah. It's just I wonder, like back in the day, if they were really thinking like I said, this no one's going to be playing on a PlayStation 1 in 2021, so like who cares? But now it's like, well, there is actually this permanency on with digital, oddly
Mm,
enough, and it's like, oh, we have there's an obstacle now we have to figure out how to cross. So
yep.
it'll be interesting to watch that. The other
Yeah.
thing that was exciting this fortnight in gaming world was, are you guys familiar with the constant rhetoric by the normies that video games cause violence?
The normies.
What?
Yes,
I know.
yeah,
Normies,
I am
obviously,
aware.
been hearing about it their whole life.
Yeah. Being people our age, I'm sure we had parents who thought violence was bad anyway. So
Yeah.
it's no secret. Everyone who doesn't play video games thinks violent video games cause people to kill each other. Columbine massacre had it. Every time there's any sort of incidents that happens, violent video games are usually the first one to get accused of inciting that. But a study
Yeah.
published just on November 5, so 4 days ago as of recording this, titled Just a Game? Study shows no evidence that violent video games lead to real life violence. Now it detail I know, shocking, right? It's like we all sort of knew that
Shock.
already. Now it is important to note though that before these few ones that I'm going to mention, the sort of outstanding rhetoric and like general consensus amongst literature was that violent video games did cause it, because there was a very pivotal study. I couldn't find it in my 5 minutes research, but there was a really pivotal study that pretty much was talking about I'm going to butcher it, but it's like replication. So essentially, if you put a kid in a room and have an adult really angry smashing stuff in front of them, that kid will then replicate that behavior. And they're like, look, that's
Mm.
clear, and that's a phenomenon. I think it's just called replication, actually. And the leap was that, oh, well, that's how people act. So sure, if you watch video games that are violent, if you watch people killing each other in video games, kids will go out and want to kill each other in that. And that was always just accepted as evidence. And it was a very shoddy study that made a lot of leaps in logic. Just sort of, it was causational. Sorry, it was correlational rather than causational. And so that was just always been cited by people as, oh, but this study showed, this is the leading science on it. But now this study is just one of many. So it detailed how there was not sufficient evidence to prove that video games did cause violence. They linked it to potentially being that video games are mostly played at home where violence doesn't occur as much. But they did find that, quote, violent video games may agitate children, but this agitation does not translate into violence against other people. Now, similarly, a report published in 2020 in the journal called Royal Society of Open Science reevaluated 28 studies from 2008 and onwards and found that, quote, current research is unable to support the hypothesis that violent video games have a meaningful long-term predictive impact on youth aggression. There wasn't a meta-analysis titled Meta-Analysis of the Relationship Between Violent Video Game Play and Physical Aggression Over Time. This was done in 2018. They did suggest that there was a connection with violence, and a lot of their sort of methodologies and stuff did seem pretty sound, but they did say there was more research was required into sort of ethnic factors, which seem to be the main differentiating aspect about which groups were getting violent and why that is. So it wasn't, again, like with any sort of scientific study, it's never 100% clear cut and infallible. But there is, at least from my brief research, resounding evidence that keeps coming out saying, look, violent video games do not cause violence in people. Do you guys feel like you're violent people?
Yes.
No.
No. No. Like it's the thing, and it's old people who aren't, like they used to blame music.
Yeah,
They used to blame Marilyn Manson, and Marilyn Manson's not known as a violent man. Um, Joke.
that's
He's
a
an
good one.
abuser, but like they blamed his music on.
Yeah.
They blamed shootings on his music, rap music. They blamed shootings on this, and when they couldn't win that, they turned to video games, especially like in the age of GTA when it was first coming out
Mm.
and all this. Like, I'm sorry, um, like people who are mentally ill, who have easy access to guns, um, cause violence and shoot people, not playing video games. Like, obviously, you can find that a lot of young people who do these shootings play video games. They also watch movies and
Mm.
they also listen to music, and like it's just
Yeah, they
social
also,
media is responsible for more stuff than video games
yeah,
are, and it's just
exactly. They also eat food, right? It's like, does food cause violence? No. Just because
Vegemite
they,
does, and I didn't know that for years.
I mean, that makes me violent because it tastes like crap. But just because you do something doesn't mean
It's
that that
downright.
causes it, right?
That you're causing me violence right now with your un-Australian comments.
I knew it.
Yeah,
I could see it in your eyes. I could see it was going to kill you.
someone's not a happy little Vegemite.
No, no, I'm not. Salt and yeast. Who would have thought that was not nice?
Have you guys heard of Jack Thompson? He's this US. I don't know what he is.
Yes.
Pain in the ass who is continuously trying to like litigate and be an activist against video games and saying how they're violent. And I don't think he's ever won a single thing, like a single case or anything like that. Like he seems like a massive pain in the ass. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I don't hear the violent video games causes violence all that often anymore. Like I feel like it is dying out as the older generation also dies out.
But yeah, and that's the thing. This won't be a thing in 30, 40 years' time because everyone that's that are those old people will have grown up playing video games, I feel like, or the majority, It's like
Yep.
it's just going to get to that point eventually. Um
And I
like
mean,
it's not the thing it used to be, but we still have games being banned here in Australia. Like,
I
like
thought that was no longer the case. Are there still games banned?
oh no, we've had games banned recently.
Have we?
What was the one recently? There was one in the last couple months. Um, wasn't Disco Elysium was banned
That's
for a
right.
while,
That's
remember?
right. If they don't rate it, it's banned. Yeah. So
yeah,
we have an R rating now, which we didn't have before.
yeah, we finally
Um,
got that.
Yeah.
okay.
But like Hotline Miami 2 was banned and is still banned. You can't play that in Australia. Um, because
Yeah,
there's a scene at the start of the game that implies rape.
yeah,
Um, but yeah,
yeah.
movies and all that are fine to do that, but
Well,
and
it's
politicians can
yeah.
do, but whatever.
Like, it's important to know,
None of my business.
like the medium is still really young comparatively, and so that's why the
Yeah.
science is still super early. And that's why that's why we're in this sort of weird stage where, like, you look throughout history, every time anything new comes, everyone is reluctant. Like 300 years ago, books were considered like the video games of the time, and people were
Yeah.
like, you know, you, like people shouldn't read books. That's wasting their minds. They should be out working the fields for a penny a day. And like they were sort of seen as this weird time waste that lazy people did. And now books, like if you get your kid to read, you've succeeded, right? That's the ultimate goal you can get. And so it will change in time. It's just we've only had video games for like 40 years. So it's and I think that like you said, Grana, the changing perspective on it and the fact that that sort of debate is gradually just declining, more and more people are accepting that they don't do this, is because it's just like, yeah, we've had these now. We understand. We haven't seen the world fall apart. Maybe we were all just a bit scared for nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, one day we won't have to deal with this issue anymore.
Hopefully.
Before we move on to the final topic of the show, speaking of violent books, this episode is actually brought to you by a very violent book by our very own
There it is.
Mr. C.V. Clarke.
That's
Welcome
me.
to 300 Years Ago. Do you dare read this? Will you become dangerous?
Burn
We
it.
can only wait and see.
This would have been the Catcher in the Rye of that time.
Yes.
Banned in
That's what
schools.
that's what people are saying. That's what reviewers are saying at the moment.
The Catcher in
Available
the
on
Rye of
Amazon,
2021.
I'm
both
definitely
in paper book and Kindle versions.
I'm definitely a more violent person after reading it. That's for sure.
Because it was so bad.
Exactly.
I'm expecting that.
No, I'm imitating Mr. Graves and his violent
Right on.
tendencies.
Ooh,
He does.
I'll have to read to find out what Griner's talking about.
Right.
So our final topic of the show, Griner, ring a ding ding, you're up again. Close us out.
Can
I
I
feel like you have the.
I got my dukes up.
Yeah, there's going to be a fight. Before we get to the fight, can I just talk about one quick thing that I forgot to talk about with Forza? It says your
Yes.
freaking name. They call you by your first name, by your Christian name, and it scares the hell out of me. Did you get this, Luke?
Yeah.
Apparently, this
I
is the
know,
thing with
yeah.
Forza Horizon 4 too. But like, my main character being called Andrew repeatedly bothers me
You can
no
customize it.
end.
Mine calls me Morgan now. Mine just calls me Morgan.
Yeah, right. I might have
And
to
because
look.
my son
I
plays
might
it,
have to
he's
look
like,
into
"Oh, they said Morgan. That's my last name." So
It's
he
super
loves it.
creepy. It's making me feel violent. I don't know. I'm not
Yeah,
happy. I'm
that
not
would make
happy about it.
how many names do they have in that database? Or is it like the old Google
Heaps.
Translate?
Several hundred apparently.
Heaps. Yep.
So they have like
Heaps. I went through
bought
them all. It was
and
They
Bart.
need bought. 'Cause Bought's, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Bart's a
Like,
very
would
popular name.
do you reckon my name would be there, or would they just be like, oh, no.
No, it would be there. I'd say.
Wow, that's very
It's
interesting.
interesting. It is one of those things when I was a kid where it's like, why do they bother getting you to enter your name? They never call me by my name anyway.
Yeah,
They just call me Chicken Chaser or whatever title they decide to give you instead. But yeah, I don't know. Now that I've got it, I don't want it. Take it back. Please stop. Anyway, all right. So, have you guys heard of a little game called Elden Ring?
Oh, yum.
Have we ever?
A very anticipated game by the Dark Souls developers From Software. Anyway, this week they announced their collector's edition for Elden Ring.
Yeah, they did.
This caused a bit of a fight in our little group chat that we decided we should bring into the podcast rather than having it out in text. Now, look, before we start, I just want to say collector's editions, if you like them, that's fine. I'm happy for you.
That's not what you said in the text.
More
Wow.
power to you, but I think they are a problem. I may have called them cancer in our chat.
Yep. Quote.
Look.
I was going to say, I don't think a doctor will be like, "You have a problem if you've got cancer."
Depends on what sort of cancer, I suppose.
Power
We got a
to you.
problem
Power to
here.
you. If you want to have that,
Yeah.
you keep it. All right, that's fine.
Look,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to be outnumbered. Let me just make my points, and then we can go at it if you like. I personally dislike them because generally, what you're getting is a very low quality. Like this isn't the high quality collector stuff you buy like aftermarket. You know, this isn't the Luke, you are really into this scene. I'm not, I know. But there are
Yeah.
definitely makers
Yeah.
of models that are the sought after ones, right? They're like there are companies that make models that they're the ones you want, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
Generally they're not the models that you get in a collector's edition. To me, a collector's
No,
edition is
definitely
more like the cheap replica swords you buy in a shopping center. And
How good are
I don't know,
they?
we've all had those friends who's like, look, I've got Sting. It's exactly like in the movies. And then you pick it up and it rattles at the handle. Like, they're crap. I don't want them anywhere near my house. And I believe that is the quality that you're getting when you buy a collector's edition. they're not collectible generally. Like people want that other merch. People want that stuff from the high quality. My
Yep.
biggest issue though is, and it comes back to pre-orders as well. I think pre-orders are bad. Like pre-orders are just not good. Like you're giving money to a developer, you're giving money to like GameStop or EB Games before you know what the game is like. And I think the easiest example of this is Cyberpunk 2077. Like that
Yep.
game was pre-ordered up the wazoo, and it's just a bad game. Like it's just not the game it was hyped up to be. Some people got refunds on that. Great. That's very rarely the case though.
Not if you got the collector's edition, you couldn't.
That's right. If you got the collector's edition, you couldn't refund it. So, and the
Yeah.
problem with collector's editions is I believe they're 90% there to drive pre-orders. So they know they're only making a certain amount of them. If you want to get it, you've got to get in early. That means pre-ordering. If Elden Ring turns out to be as bad as Cyberpunk 2077, I like knock on wood, I don't want to curse it. I'm not saying it's going to be. I really hope it's not. But you know, if it turns out to be and you've spent $150 on this collector's edition, what's it going to be worth? You know,
380.
sorry, 380. I didn't even look at the price. That's disgusting. I mean, you can buy the
Just wait.
Cyberpunk.
380 is the one without the helmet. The helmet one didn't
I couldn't
actually get available in Australia. No,
Yeah, that's what I
but it
thought.
would have been like $700.
It was a lot of
380 is just the
Gross.
statue of the main character.
Gross. A main character
Damn, I'm excited.
you know nothing about. You don't even know how good they are. They might be the worst main character you've ever met.
Oh, please. Like it's going to be a bad Souls game.
Oh, it's possible. Like if you had said that to me about Cyberpunk 2077, no, they've got the legacy and the Witcher games. They've done the hard yards. They're going to make a good game.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Finally, well, 2 more points. I believe we are heading into a minimalist world. Like,
And I hate it.
Marie Kondo, you know, if it does not spark joy, get rid of it. I believe these collector's editions do not spark joy. I believe they just sit around and collect dust. But that's my personal opinion.
Yeah. How can you say they don't spark joy when it's you?
Griner's trying to say something to get my wife on his side when she listens to this podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Bringing out Marie Kondo.
I do believe a lot of people go through that phase in their life. Like I believe people tend to want less things as they get older. And I feel like collector's editions are like the first thing to go. Finally, it's bad for the environment. All this plastic crap. You know, there's a turtle out there choking on a Big Daddy from Bioshock 1.
That's not true because no one would throw that out.
It's bad. It's terrible.
No, your first analogy in the chat was better. Anthem. Yeah. Anthem collector's editions everywhere.
Sorry, yes, true.
More than fish in the ocean.
Someone's choking. Some fish is choking on an Anthem collector's edition statue. They're my points. That's why I believe they're bad. That's why I don't buy them. I'm more than happy for you guys to have dissenting opinions. Go at it.
You weren't so happy when we were texting.
I said one thing. All right, I wasn't even that mad about it. I was more mad that I got called fun police for saying I didn't like it. Because look, I'm allowed to have that opinion. And we listen to you rag on about physical media every week.
Because that's a valid opinion.
Just wait. I'm just going to read a transcript here of what happened during this whole thing. Was just so I understand where it got heated. Because Grant, I will admit, I understand where you're coming from, but you seem to get a bit testy here for a minute. So all I did,
100.
being the person, I just sent a photo of the collector's edition. Conan innocently comments, "Gorgeous." Griner replies, "Collector's editions are cancer." And then Conan replies,
stand by that statement.
"Officer Griner of the Fun Police never sleeps." And then this is where it just spikes up in the conversation, where Griner goes, "Right, so when you rant about physical media and Marvel killing cinema, it's cool and very enjoyable, but me disliking collector's editions is Fun Police." Anyway, that's all I'll read, but...
that comes from a deep-seated feeling in my heart that you guys don't like my opinions on this podcast.
I'll just say, and then I came in with, "Guys, check this out," and it was the new Halo collectible Master
And then
Chief
you doubled down, which I loved.
And then also Xbox's Adidas sneakers as well, which is not so much a collector's item, but
they're sick. They're sick sneakers. They're shoes. You wear them, you get use out of them.
Yeah, I get it.
Adidas aren't doing anything bad to the environment, are they?
Well,
Conan, we'll
All
get
right,
your opinion first.
let me rebut all your points one by one. Number one,
please.
they're not good collectibles. I'm looking right now, the Fallout New Vegas Collector's Edition. The deck of cards itself goes for $200. Okay. The collectible coin goes for $100. Put it all together, several $100s is my point. Last of Us collectors, Luke, how much does that go for?
The statue from The Last of Us Collector's Edition was available at retail when it first came out for $150, including the Last of Us game, and that statue alone is now worth $1,500.
That is a
Wow.
1000% markup. And you got the game for free. All right. Granted,
Yeah.
there are some collectors that haven't, escalated in
Do you know
value
how much
like
the
that.
Cyberpunk 2077 collector's edition is worth now?
I just,
Brand new.
But that's not a problem with the collector's edition. It's a problem with the game.
I,
If it's a
But we
crap
I
do
just want to
not
game,
say,
know the quality of the game
I,
when you buy the
I,
edition. That's the
I
problem.
just wanted to say the Cyberpunk Collector's Edition, when it was announced, was $450, and it's the statue of the guy on the motorbike.
yeah, it's a
It
crap
was sold
statue
out for
anyway.
a while. Right now in EB Games' latest sale, it's $99 with the game and the Collector's Edition statue. So yeah, people
Look,
less than a year ago paid an extra $400 almost for that.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, look, okay, like to your point, we've all been burned by collectors. I was there when I pre-ordered Dead Space 2, and they're like comes with a replica plasma cutter, and it's something it's this big and doesn't even do anything. And everybody, because they didn't actually say how big it was, so everyone was like, "It's a replica. You hold it in your hand." It's like, no, it's not even a paperweight. It's garbage. And that still upsets me to this day. So I won't defend all of them because you're right. There has been a culture of ripping nerds off and being like, "You liked this thing? Pay $600 for this cheap plastic crap." Like, remember the Fallout 76 one where you got the vinyl bag?
Oh
You got
yeah,
the
that
vinyl
was
bag.
bad.
That's what I was going to bring up. And it, like, they had to refund people and
Yeah,
like give them their money back because it wasn't what was advertised. They
no,
literally like, oh, that's going to cost too much money. We went with a cheaper material that's
yeah.
just disintegrating and
Like
Mm.
stuff like that.
that comment is abhorrent. It was too expensive for us to
Yep.
make this item you bought from us, so we didn't do it. Like that's evil. So all that stuff is really sucky. I totally agree. There has been a bad culture around for a long time. I do think when you get into properties that you like, I think you can be sure about some things. Like Skyrim came out, I bought the collectors. Skyrim was never going to be an awful game. And I think at the very least, it was a cool looking dragon statue. You could see it, it looked cool. Fallout New Vegas was never going to be bad. It had some cool trinkets. Gears of War 3, I really liked, got a cool collectors. I'm still happy I bought that. Like, there's these things. Last of Us 2 hasn't gone up in value that like much, but it's a cool thing to have, and
No.
I'm glad I've got it.
But like Cyberpunk 2077, I think is a good example of a game people thought was gonna be good. Fallout 4.
People were certain it was going to be good.
How high quality is the Fallout 4 pre-order?
I'm glad I have that Pip Boy. It's cool.
Okay. I mean, we're never going to agree
Like,
on some things because you want to have buckets of cheap
no, for
plastic
sure.
stuff in your house.
I'm like at the end of the day, it comes back to that nature, I guess. Of if you don't want possessions, then it's impossible to ever say possessions are good. I just do not think it's fair to say collector's editions are evil. It's like no, that those are not causing the problems of the world. They
Like,
are they are a very relatively harmless way of enjoying it. Like the companies profit off that. Yeah, companies profit off a lot more. Companies profit off worse things in more heinous ways. You ever been to a bank recently? Like, Lord,
um,
if we're gonna start saying collectors are what's killing the world, it's like no, no, no. There's other things
Look,
that are
it's not
bad.
the worst thing in the world, sure, but I do think within gaming, like I think pre-ordering is a huge problem, and I think collector's editions just drive pre-orders.
Yeah,
Like
look,
pre-orders around hype are, it's bad.
this is the thing. This is an argument that both sides are correct in. Like
How
honestly,
Ooh, take a
diplomatic of you,
side.
Luke. How diplomatic.
no, honestly, like Conan, I have to go back on at some point. They're not harmless. Like we're
Mm.
living in a world that's getting worse and worse with climate change and waste, and this is a lot of useless plastic. And I know pretty much every other category in the world is also doing this 1,000 times.
Oh,
And so
yes.
what's this just one added thing on top of it? But it is just an added thing on top of it, where it's basically companies just trying to get extra money. And look, here's the thing. I'm on both sides, as in literally, I've been that person. I've got every collector's edition of games I love, and they've turned out to be plastic crap. I spent $500 on the Middle Earth Shadow of War collector's edition to get a
Nice.
ginormous statue, which was plastic and like not high quality. I definitely I used to over the years, and this isn't so much collector's editions, but I used to collect pop vinyls. At one
Mm.
point, I had 300 of them. I now have 4 of them.
Bonkers.
I just now I just have my Last of Us ones, and that's it. Uh, and with statues, I have gone a much more minimalistic thing with my life now. I've sold most of my statues. I have a plant in the background instead of statues. I legitimately have 2 statues now. That's all I have in terms of collectibles. Nothing from video game collector's editions anymore, really. Um, and Conan, you and I have both worked in retail video game stores.
Yep.
So, we've seen how long we have these boxes and boxes of Ubisoft, like Assassin's Creed collector's editions that come out at $150, and a month later for Black Friday sales are $68.
For sure.
It's just like something they push out every year. And I'll see them on Marketplace now. A dude that's like gaming collectibles, and there's like a row of statues, and they're like $10 each. And he's like,
Yeah.
this one's a skeleton from something. Like, I don't know what it is. Some are really bad. Don't buy a collectible if it's for a Ubisoft game. Those are
Yeah.
cheap quality.
That's a given.
Um, I would bank on buying a collector's edition from like a Naughty Dog game or a PlayStation exclusive. They're usually higher quality. That's a fact. And they're usually collectible. Like, they're not going on sales months later. Like Ghost of Tsushima one sold out, God of War one sold out, and now going for much more on eBay. Last of Us, like we said, is worth a fortune now, and I don't have that statue, and I hate that. And I'm not going to pay $1,500 for a 12-inch plastic statue that is higher quality than most other statues, but it's still like,
fifteen
if I'm
hundred
going to buy
dollars worth.
statues, I'm going to buy the expensive Sideshow Collectibles ones that are $1,500, but are also 30 inches tall, made of like polystone and all this sort of stuff that are like really high quality materials. Um, it's just, yeah, it's made for marketing. It's made to get people to pre-order. The Elden Ring Collector's Edition did sell out that day for $380 a pop, and it's now going on eBay for around $500 to $600.
I saw that.
Oh, so those scalpers
It's
popped up within like the hour before it had even sold out.
Yeah.
It was stupid.
Yeah, no, people do that. People will buy it literally just to resell them.
Yeah.
And the argument can be, why wouldn't you when people are buying it? But I just tell people, our audience, all 8 of you out there, don't buy these cheap collector's editions on eBay for double the price. Don't do it, because EB Games will eventually release a couple more on Christmas sales. They'll be available again. Don't ever buy scalpers prices for
Yep.
collector's editions, these cheap ones or anything like that. But yeah, like, there is an argument against the whole plastic waste of it. It's definitely a thing to
I don't
get people to pre-order, because here's the thing: people can't return collector's editions. That's a fact. Working in the gaming, like at gaming retail, if someone buys a collector's edition and they don't have a 7-day return policy, they can't return that game with a
I mean,
collector's edition.
if you kick up enough fuss, you can return anything. So if it really stings you to the soul,
Yeah,
you
if
can.
you go all Karen and bring
Yeah,
up Australian
like a
consumer
Karen.
law and all.
Like legitimately though, if you really are that upset about it, you can contact the again, like say, working in retail and working in a bunch of different fields. Pretty much no company is ever going to deny a refund because it's just not worth it.
Yeah,
I don't think
but
the
even if
environment.
they do, that doesn't come off the company that sold the game. That comes off EB Games. That doesn't come
Yeah,
off
for sure.
Ubisoft. That doesn't affect them. But
I
yeah,
just don't think the environmental argument holds any water. It's like when massive
well,
companies.
Earth won't soon.
No, oh my gosh, it's like when every single big company comes out. It's like, hey guys, reduce your carbon footprint by doing this. It's like, don't worry about the fact that we are literally poisoning the planet. We're actually the ones pumping megatons of like waste into the water. You guys shouldn't actually use a plastic bottle. That's what's killing it. That's what this is. By being like, oh, don't buy collectors, they're poisoning planets. Like, no, you put Glad wrap on your lunch. You dispose of shit in the garbage. Like, do not act as if this is the thing. My 10 collector's items, I, along with everyone else, waste more plastic than that, probably in a week of food. And do not say you don't, because you're a liar if you say you don't. We're a
I
disposable
wrap my
society.
sandwiches with recycled paper. Thank you very
You're full of crap.
much.
You're a dirty liar. So the point
You
is, like, you've wasted more in 1 week, and then you say, "Oh, I'm actually saving the planet by not buying this collector's." That brings
But
people
where
to
do you
tears.
start? You have to start at some
Not
point, though.
there, not with the one collector statue. Like that is saying I've taken a drop out of the ocean. I've done my part. No, like there are 100 billion other things that are more effective than this one tiny niche obscure way of doing that.
You're right. Like, it is not the biggest environmental impact in anyone's life. Like, single-use plastic is way worse. But those corporations that are pumping out all that toxicity, like, they are doing that to serve consumers who are buying the products,
Sure.
and that still counts for physical, like, collector's editions.
Yeah,
Like,
but
it's still
I,
something. It's still something. It's not nothing. You can't say it's not anything.
I think okay, sure, but in terms of comparison, in terms of look, I buy collectors, I get joy out of, I appreciate it. That is like, I think it's bad to say that's actually not good though because it's hurting the environment. Meanwhile, I'm too lazy to actually like have reusable cups, so I'm just going to keep getting disposables. Like,
That's fine. And look, the environmental argument isn't my main argument against it. Like, it is the fact that these are bought on hype alone, and there's no way to know the quality of the game when you're buying them. That's my issue with it, and the cost versus quality. But
sure,
you can't say there is no environmental impact.
okay, but like there's an environmental impact to using computers, but we do it.
True.
Like minimal, like going minimal and being like, I've got everything digitized. I don't know, but I wonder how much of an impact that has. Like we're seeing a crisis with things like Bitcoin because of the computer power required. If everything is just high powered electricity that we use, that's going to cause its own issues. It's not going to solve any crisis by being like, I don't have a plastic statue, but I am using like I'm using a computer that's using more power than freaking 10 other ones would be.
Okay. The
Well, there is an energy
what
argument
if?
there, but anyway,
There's an empty argument.
there's an energy argument there. Like, you can create energy in a relatively green way, and
Yeah, okay, sure.
Bitcoin is very different to storing stuff.
Conan,
Yes.
being such a physical media person or just physical in general instead of digital, um,
I'm a
what
physical
would you feel
lover.
like this whole push? Here you are. What would happen if in a few years, games seem to be moving this digital way as much as physical media is still popular in circles? What if collector's editions start doing like, this statue's an NFT as
Well,
opposed to an actual statue?
so okay, that's an interesting point because this has made me like this is something that I've seen with my consumption of them, where I think back in the day I was a lot more like back in the day of like the Dead Space one, every game that came out had a crappy collector's edition because it had some cheap plastic trinket. And then I think after around 2011, 2012ish, they started to go more of, and I'm sure Luke, you probably remember this, but a lot of them were like, you're paying an extra $50 and you get downloads.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
the big thing about collectors. And it was actually more of an exception to get one that had a physical thing as well. And I was like, oh,
Hmm.
and that's kind of a bit more of a selling point. And I think that's the way it is going to go. So to me, it's kind of exciting when a statue of like Dark Souls 3, I got the collectors for that. The statue came out, like it's a really cool statue. I love that game. It's got a great art book that I look at. Like I love that. And so I'm glad to get that. I would pay, but then a lot of the other games don't have it. And so I don't have to because they're just digital. So, and
It's
it's, in a way, it's almost like better for it's almost better to not have all these ones because they make the ones that you do get a little bit more, perhaps better quality. To answer your question properly though, like when they start doing NFT figurines, I'm just going to bail out.
Yep.
Like I'm going
Nobody
to
wants
look
that
upon
shit.
the world. I'm just trying to find there's a great Alexander the Great quote here. I'm trying to
Trying to
where he
butcher.
looks upon the worlds and he weeps because there are none left to conquer. That'll be me.
Yes. Um, I'll just touching on collector's editions from the past. I still remember the Killzone 3 had like it was advertised to come with a Hellgast helmet. And it was literally like a quarter of a head scale. So it was like this thing with like a little display piece and
Well,
it
that's
cost like $200. I remember someone buying it, legitimately thinking it was a full size replica to wear that cool helmet. And it's just this little little head to just sit on a stand, and it's like, there's some collector's editions that are good quality. Like I still have somewhere in a box the Witcher 3 statue that's actually stone. That also came with Gwent decks. Like those Gwent decks are now worth more each than the collector's edition was itself. Like they're $200 each. Um, you know, there are quality ones, and you'll find that those ones aren't in this massive um, amount or anything like that. But it's yeah, it's a problem, and like it's something that over the years, as I got into more high end collectibles and started buying them statues, I definitely got out of buying those collector's editions because they don't look nice to display next to ones that cost a lot of money. And now, like when I see, I'll see some collectible rooms that have like 1,000 pop vinyls just like sitting in boxes piled up, and like all of these collector's editions of games, and I cringe a little. Like it's just like, it's just like that's not. But hey, to each their own. I'm not going to attack it, but it's just like it's just a
That's what I meant.
waste.
Like, I agree. The people who go hardcore, like pop vinyls, is the one that I never understood, and I could never
Yeah,
figure out how it took off, but it did. But people just like I said, they filled rooms with them, and
they
like,
still do. I can't
yeah,
believe it's still popular. I still know people who have rooms filled with them.
and that always
It's
makes me like shudder a little bit. But at the same time, I'm like, look, that brings those people joy. Tai Kwan Marie Do, whatever her name is,
Marie
she,
Kondo.
I don't care. I don't like her. She'd be all about that. She'd be like, it brings you joy. Like people like that.
Oh, I don't know. I shouldn't be like, nah, throw this room out.
Yeah.
But then
But make more space.
for what? For
But
like, it's just the problem is
love.
you come down to a psychological level. It's all the same. The people who hoard things to collect because it's like I have this thing that I feel like makes me better or satisfies me, or I know I've got like something limited. And the people who are like, I don't even have a lounge because I'm always out. I do things with people because I don't believe in material goods. They're just as bad. They've got the exact same problems, the exact same needs in their life. They're just filling it another way.
Both as wanky as each other. Yeah, I can agree with
Exactly.
that. I can agree with that. Like, if you enjoy them, kind of keep getting them.
And I will. And I
I
will.
hope you find the good quality ones and not the dodgy ones. I am glad to see them become less common. Like it is, I am pleased to see that like not every single game that comes out comes with a cheap collector's edition.
Yeah, because
Um,
there was a bad few years
yeah,
where everything
Yeah.
was.
And like, I don't know. We've had collector's editions where they don't come with the game, and it blows my mind.
That the
Like
Red Dead 2
there's
one
Red
did
Dead
that?
2, because I looked up
Red
some of
Dead
the
2.
worst ones, and Red Dead 2 is like at the top of every list. It's
That blew
just
my
Yep.
atrocious.
mind. Yeah.
But there is legitimately $300 collector's editions that don't come with the game. Or like, ones that will come with a digital code for the game. And it's like,
Yeah, I hate
so
digital.
you're just buying the statue really, because like that code's worthless to them basically. But
Yeah.
like there's a lot of replica Death Stranding babies in tubes out there. Like, did you know that was the Death Stranding? It was a big suitcase, like the suitcase he carries
Mm.
in Death Stranding, that had the container with the fetus baby inside of it.
BB, yeah.
There's a lot of them
Yeah.
out there.
Look, yeah, and look, there is a lot of responsibility that should probably be taken more on producers of this, right? People who are like and so it's an equal thing. Like consumers shouldn't just get sucked in and be like, it's limited, I must buy it. But at the
Hmm.
same time, like it's that question of supply and demand. It's like you create a demand and you kind of say it's limited and look, it's a thing. And they say we're going to sell 10,000 of these. It's like, well, no, if your game sucks, you're only going to sell 100 of them. It's like, well, maybe you shouldn't be so confident in that. Like, be more
Yeah.
conservative in business. But that's a question of just how capitalist societies run and function. And
Because honestly, in like the right thing to do would be sort of like what Weta Workshop does, who make Lord of the Rings statues, where they will have it open for pre-order for 2 weeks and they'll announce it months ahead. Even though this goes into the problem Grant was talking about, but then they do like an edition size of how many pre-orders they got, and they're like, okay, pre-orders are closed. This is how many we're making. This is how many people ordered it. So this is how many we're making. So then
yeah,
you don't get some EB game store somewhere still holding an Assassin's Creed 2 statue
yeah,
from like
yeah,
20 years ago that they can't offload for. Like
Yeah.
you'll have collector's editions, man. Go down to this is true. Years ago, I bought the Dragon Age Inquisition collector's edition. There was a Christmas sale. I went online and found out that our local store had one in stock I was like, "What? $12 for a collector's edition that at launch was $300." And for the Christmas
Yes.
sale, because like no stores had it. It wasn't available to order online. It was only pick up in store, and our local store was one of them. They had it sitting out the back, up the top of the ladder,
Gather dust.
hiding behind like the Steam controllers and all that stuff. Was this collector's edition for $12, and
Damn.
I got it, and I
Good.
sold it.
You're one of those. To
Yeah.
end it, I think we've done it to death. But the Elden Ring collector's edition with the helmet, Conan, would you have that helmet on display in your home?
Well, look, I don't have anything on display because I live in a small 2-bedroom apartment with a family. But I dream of a day where I finally have a room that I can actually like put my desk rather than my lounge room, and I can put some collectibles up. Like sometimes I do go back and like I take the like I got the Sekiro collectors with the statue, and there's been a few times I've looked at that and I'm like, that is really cool, and I would have that on display.
But the helmet
That helmet is
specifically?
pretty cool.
The helmet, I don't know, because if it was like $600, I can't afford $600.
Fair enough.
I will say, just before we finish, my sister years ago bought the Titanfall 2 helmet, and it's a full-size replica helmet that comes with a display stand, so you can just display it as the helmet. But yeah, bought that in an EB Games Christmas sale. I believe it was $88 she bought that for. It's currently on eBay worth like $500. So
Dang.
yeah,
Does happen. I feel like that's
you
the
win some, you
exception
lose
rather
some.
than the rule. But yeah, definitely
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, definitely.
It's
Well, that's all for this episode of Fun Police. Buy them collector's editions if you
Can we
like them.
change
But
our name to Fun Police?
yes, please.
Right.
We'll start singing Roxanne. So if you like this episode, if you like hearing us talk about video games, you'll love watching us talk about movie trilogies, or sometimes TV shows or quintuplet movies. So in our other podcast, The Good, the Bad, and the Worst, which is now on video on YouTube as well as all your podcast providers to watch. Our most recent episode was a special spooky episode on Scream. Our next episode will be on the latest pop culture hit, Squid Game. And then after that will be the Daniel Craig James Bond movies. Check that out. It's always good. You can always follow us on social media at Bonus XP Podcast or at Good Bad Worst Podcast. I am Luke the Morgs on Twitter. Conan, you are at CV or CVC Author on
CV
Twitter.
Clark author, I think. I should
CV
memorize that.
Clark Author.
I think there might be a dot in there somewhere.
Yes, on Twitter. Follow us if you want. Like and subscribe. And of course, we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Peace.